let's dive in, guys.
Do we start with the jingle or? No. So I'm joined here with a few more people than what we've seen in the last episodes, and we're just continuing our conversation about how cancer has impacted us in different ways, and everybody has a different story, and so like that's what I'm mostly like really excited about with this kind of stuff is hearing from different people, the potential of whoever's listening, how that can impact that person. Angie and I were just talking before we started hitting record about how it is just important just to talk. Sometimes you don't know what to say. Sometimes you
So true.
Yeah.
you might not even feel comfortable about doing it, or it's just sometimes it feels repetitious.
Right.
Like I've told this story so many times at this point. Like how many more times can I say it, and how is it? All these different thoughts go through my mind at times. But I know like any time that I open up about something, or I've shared about how just doing the photos for everybody coming in,
Right.
I would say at least half the group said something about how cancer impacted them, and it just opens up that conversation. So, sometimes someone's just waiting for that person to say something,
Absolutely.
so that way they get that sense like, oh, I can talk about this. And so that's, like what we're saying, just such an important thing
That sharing your story, sometimes people think that, that no one really wants to know what's going on with them, but by sharing your story, you find that there are other people that are dealing with, kind of the same things that they are.
It's like I remember at the meeting, the meet and greet that we had, how we was talking how fresh it is with you,
Very, yes.
just a few months, and then I was like, yeah, my sister-in-law just passed away about the same time frame, so it's like, cancer just does
Never
too
quits.
much.
Yeah,
just,
never
it's always
quits.
there.
Never quits.
If you don't know about the campaign, in short, there's 25 of us, and we're all representing different cancers. Unfortunately, there's that many to talk about, but there's also different colors that are associated with that. A big campaign that's been going out. I'll leave links to all our stuff in the video description too, where each of us have at least $2,500 that we're trying to raise individually, and the overall goal is $60,000. And I want to say we're almost there.
74%.
Yeah, so we're
Almost
doing
there, real
pretty
close.
good. So,
Okay.
you start.
Well,
away.
I've written an original song to open up the podcast. I'd like to perform it now. Just kidding.
I was just kidding.
She really does.
She really does. You're right. She really does have a
Let's
song.
talk about cancer. Okay. I am Kendall Shows. I'm representing all cancers. My dad had pancreatic cancer, and my mother, she's a survivor of breast cancer twice, 15 years apart. So I'm not sure about the colors for each. Obviously, I think pink is breast cancer. I'm not sure about pancreatic. It might be purple, but anyway, I've loved being a part of this. I love the practical way this organization helps people with day-to-day challenges. So I'm really psyched to be a part of it.
And I'm A.G. Saliba, and I also represent different cancers. My mother's mother, my grandmother, when I was a child, she was diagnosed with breast cancer twice. So I experienced that and still have memories of her treatments and the things that she went through with that. And then I had a melanoma scare about 14 years ago. And then lost Mark's dad to cancer, and a really close dear friend to cancer, and I would say in the last 12 years. So cancer is a big part of my life, unfortunately, caring for those that have been sick, and like Kendall said, this program, this foundation, is so important to those that may not have insurance, or even still have insurance, but there's other expenses that they have to have in their cancer battle. And so I think that how could you not want to be a part of such a great foundation?
I agree. I'm Ashley McGee, and I'm representing my mom, and she had breast cancer and cervical cancer, and then back 2 years ago, she was diagnosed with bladder cancer. So that's the cancer that I'm representing here with this foundation. It was in November, and she was diagnosed, and she's passed away just not even 3 months ago. So when this newly Foundation came to me. It was a month after my mom had died. And they're like, maybe you just want to think about it. And I said I would think about it, but I knew like right then that I would turn my pain into a purpose. So through that, they've been wonderful. And it's just talking about it has really helped me to get through a lot of dark days.
So I'm Josh, and I'm representing lymphoma cancer. That's what my dad was diagnosed with. And if you know my story, you've heard me say this, and it's just, it was a quick thing. That's probably the worst part about it, that we didn't have too much time to, check off any last things to do or, make sure peace of mind about anything. It just like got diagnosed. You try to go through the processes, you listen to all the experts, and the news just kept on getting worse. Part of the issue was, he had a heart attack back in 2003 or 4, and so he stayed on the medication too long, and it ate away at his muscular system and all that kind of stuff. So by the time he was diagnosed with all this cancer stuff, he had no strength to even fight anything. And so like that was the hard part, like the stacked issues with that kind of stuff. So and all the different medical terms that you have to go through and all the different things like that was kind of overwhelming, not knowing what to do because of all the stuff that you have to go through and listen through and hope for the best. But I didn't really know much about lymphoma or anything like that. I didn't really know anybody else that had that kind of stuff. There was other issues in the past, like my grandma, long time ago at this point, but like there was colon cancer, and colon cancer was something, that's what took my sister-in-law. So just
How old was she?
close to 50.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just, hers was like, I think she got diagnosed about 3 or 4 years ago, was given 5 years, and then it's still a short amount of time. So yeah, cancer just screws you over in so many different ways.
I mean, it does.
Great way to put it. It's very true.
And I can remember, like I said, as a child, I was probably 10, I want to think. And with my grandmother, she had it, early on before I could remember. But her second time around was when I was old enough to understand what was going on. And she had a mastectomy that she had both breasts removed. And so, of course, growing up as a girl, you're thinking, what's going on with grandmother, kind of thing. And then the second time, she had to do radiation. And, too, just with the way that medicine has changed, radiation in the 80s was a lot different than the radiation I believe probably is now. And I can remember just the things that my mother had to, help buy, and my aunt, because her skin would be so burned that she couldn't wear, certain things because it would just stick to her. And, and that was just a tragic memory of that, just knowing that the things that we are doing to help with, that side of cancer is, it's a purpose. It's a purpose to kind of be a part of something, so good to help those that are going through such a hard time.
There are people in this community that are facing this on their own. They don't have family. They don't have friends. Like one memory, so my dad was 53 when he died of pancreatic cancer. So I was a newlywed, and then I had a sister in college, a brother in high school, and my youngest sister was in middle school. So he died within 28 days of getting diagnosed. I mean, it was so quick. So it's kind of a blur, and this has been 20 years. So I was, however old. But one thing that was, and I was also living out of state. I was in Georgia, he was in Birmingham. So I was around, but when my mom got diagnosed, so he had been gone for 2 years. So she is just trying to survive with these 3 other children. And she gets diagnosed with breast cancer. She starts going through chemo, and I was working here in Dothan, but I quit my job and was going up to help her with everything. And she got through chemo, and then one of the worst parts, and like something I will never forget, talking about community, she fell and broke her leg and then broke her other foot in our 3-story house where the basement, in Birmingham is hilly. And she still had to go to radiation. These men from our church would come over and turn her backwards and take her down our front steps and then get her in the car, and then I would take her to radiation. And that is community.
Right.
We couldn't have done it. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. I was dumb and young, so, but I mean, and so that's why I was so about this organization, because community helped us get through it and survive it. So, but I know there are people here who don't have that. So it's just worthwhile. I mean, I was telling my daughter, a lot of these organizations, fundraising goes into marketing and to paying staff, and then in research, obviously, which is wonderful. But again, I just keep saying the word practical, it really funds things that people don't even think about, that they take for
True.
Yeah,
granted.
and you think about the wiregrass, all the area that encompasses. And when Mom was going to radiation and chemo, I was taking her, and that's could be 5 days a week or 4 days
Yeah.
a week.
Yeah.
And the going back, luckily we could do it. We live close, but the ones that live far out that are making those, 30-minute one-way trips every day.
Gas is not
So,
cheap.
No. So
It's not.
going to really be great to
For
help.
just a small appointment,
Yeah.
it still takes out at least
The
half
day,
that
yeah.
Oh,
the
yeah.
day.
True.
And you miss
And
work.
then you don't feel good. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I was telling my daughter some more today in the car. I was like, I mean, think about this. Say you work at, you work in fast food or something, and then you get cancer and you're going to treatment and you don't feel good. You feel awful. So you miss some shifts. Then you're behind in your hours. Then you're behind in your light bill.
Yeah.
And it all builds.
It trickles.
It
And
really
this
does.
also impacts the people that are the caretakers too.
Yeah.
Ones that have to take off work or do all that kind of stuff too. So it's tough. I was talking to Philip last episode about how it's I had a family, my brother and his wife at the time, where they didn't have kids or anything like that, so they would do the day shift kind of stuff. But then even through some of the stress kind of stuff, it's they felt like I wasn't chipping in enough. It's hey, I still have to put food on the table for my own family.
Right.
So it's there's a lot of stuff that goes into the layers of impact.
Cancer gets its tentacles in areas of your life that you would never suspect, and resentment builds up with family, and then grief has its whole other set of issues, and it's just
And even
insane.
grief when they're sick. I mean, I feel like that we as caretakers, we're grieving watching them, having to go through all of what they have to go to, just with the hope that they will go into remission and can live a full life, once
Trying to
their
be as
treatments are
optimistic as
over.
possible,
Right. And honestly, I have to say, my friend Robin, she died in April of 2020 during COVID. And she fought for 10 years of her life, and her whole goal was to see her son graduate.
I knew this was coming. I know this story.
And she knew that she was probably at the last phase, because she knew that she wasn't able to go to school and work every day. And she was a 5th grade teacher. And she really hated not being there to show her kids, doing hard things and getting, through hard things with support from teachers or family. And she was in Georgia, had lived in Georgia for quite some time, because at the time her husband's job had taken them there. And she did. It was really hard the last 2 years. Just a lot of, every time she went for a 6-month checkup, something was different. And you had mentioned the damage that, because she was on the classic Red Devil chemo that a lot of chemotherapy patients unfortunately, know about. And And she did. She suffered some, heart fluid and lung fluid and just edema in her legs, where her legs would swell and the lymph wasn't working, the system wasn't working well. But I always say that because of COVID, it kept me from being able to be with her in that last few days. And I have said from this point forward, I'm COVID, whatever. I'm going to be with my people when I need to be with my people, because I don't want to have regrets like that.
Yeah.
I hated to, be where I was. I mean, I was at the beach, so who could say they hated being at the beach, right? It was beautiful. No one was there. The sand, the water, all the things. But when you get that phone call and you're not there to be with her, because she had been in the hospital and she went home on hospice, and she told the nurse that night, because her cousin, who's like a best friend, like a sister, and we're in our little yaya group, she said, I'll be better tomorrow. And she was. She was better. She didn't have to have chemo anymore. She didn't have to deal with all of that. But, she did. She could have benefited so much from a foundation like this, because she was working and she was teaching, but insurance only covers, and she had to skip some, times at work, because she, like you said, she did not feel like it was safe for her to go to school, because she might catch something, her immune system, and just, the other side of it, her son, from the time that he was probably 8, I guess, because when she passed away, he was, 18, and she didn't actually get to see him graduate, and that was, another very emotional part of it. That it just stinks. I mean, cancer
Just not
stinks.
fair.
It's not fair.
It is not fair.
And she's in her 40s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Out of curiosity, was there any like special ways to remember her that you guys did?
So,
Because I know, like, what I'm getting at is, like, sometimes, like, at graduations or weddings, someone will have like an empty chair or
right.
things like
So,
that.
Crazy enough, one of our girls got married, and we all sat in a row together, and she had a chair for her to remember her. And then in 2021, we went for our annual gathering that summer, and went down to our beach place, and we had a floral wreath. One of the girls had someone make it, and we had a moment on the beach, because she always loved the beach. It was just kind of freeing and uplifting and relaxing, and she loved the beach. She loved it.
She was probably there
And so, yes,
with y'all.
and ironically, there was a tropical storm, at time of year that nothing like that ever happens. And we were trying to get the wreath out into the water, and it would keep rolling back up. That's what somebody said. She don't want to leave us. She don't want to leave. But we did, and we do like. What was that app that you could do little videos? Is it Marco Polo, or am I thinking about the water game?
No, that was
It was a real thing. Okay.
A couple of years ago.
Last story, and then I'll let somebody else share. But we were all getting the emails that they're about to do something with it, and you may lose your stuff. And I'd not been on the app since she had passed away. I had not gone back on it, because that was just a fun way for us to communicate our little group, other than just the typical text or FaceTime, right? And to see her, she was on oxygen, and you could see the gradual change of her. Instead of her looking like she's a healthy cancer patient, she's on oxygen. She's having to have an oxygen tank, and you can see her PICC line, and it was like, but I didn't want to get rid of those.
Yeah.
And I did. I saved them there on my phone. I kind of pushed through them
Right.
but there are times that I go back just because you want to hear her voice, that type of thing. So it's
But hearing the voice part, like, so if you don't know what I do, like I do video production kind of stuff, and you can, if off camera, you can see all those VHS tapes and stuff. It's been the neatest thing. One of the things that we've been starting to do is digitize like VHS tapes and stuff.
Oh, wow.
And so it's like being able to hear some, even family members and stuff that I haven't heard of in a while, or hearing the reactions of other people hearing a voice that they haven't heard in a while, that kind of stuff has been pretty special. And with that said, it's like if you have a chance to record with your
True.
phone or anything, like take as many photos and videos of your family time together as much as possible, because to your point, it's just like I only have so much of my dad's voice that was recorded. And some of it was when he was preaching, and I'm gonna have to listen to that. It's like, but yeah, it's just like it's hit record. Like it's so important because we're spoiled now in this time to be able to have that.
I did take lots of pictures,
Yeah.
you know, so, and I put together the little thing on
No,
a reel.
I saw it.
So
It
I,
was
you know,
so
I was
great.
thankful that I did take the pictures, but we spent so much time together at the end. And, yeah, I was in denial. Like, y'all,
Oh, yeah.
I really thought she would get better.
Yeah.
She did get better.
Yeah.
So,
I had my head totally in the sand because he was my dad. He was my hero. He was never sick. He could do anything, and I was like, cancer, we'll be fine. We're just going to do a little chemo, radiation, whatever, we'll be fine. I honestly look back, and I'm glad that that was my attitude, because I don't know if I could have survived it. I mean, I really believed up until the week we stayed with him in the hospital. And I'll never forget, my brother was 16, and I saw the look on his face when he accepted that he wasn't going to make it. And I remember that moment, and that's up there, you know. That's not something you ever forget when your 16-year-old brother accepts that he is not going to make it. And but it was a special time for our family, and I got to tell him everything I wanted to say, and I'm sure you guys were the same with your loved ones. And I had a friend who lost her dad in a motorcycle accident, and she came to my dad's funeral and was like, you got to tell him goodbye. I said, I know, and I gave her the biggest hug. I was like, you're right, and I think about her all the time, because it was just he was just gone.
Right.
And so I am grateful. I don't know. My dad wasn't, he didn't last long enough to even try chemo or nothing. And I wonder, would I have liked him to give it a shot? I'm just not sure.
It's always a big question.
Yeah.
Do you want like the last years or however much time you have to be just fighting and sick the whole time,
that's how
or
we were.
go out in peace?
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of want to go back to, I haven't really talked about or heard much stories about like ways that we memorialize people or did something special or found ways to keep their memory alive or things like that. I'm kind of curious we kind of talked about what you did.
So one of the things that we did, because she was born and raised here, Robin was, we did the Angel of Hope and had some flowers and put a picture up, and so that was one way that we were able to do that in that time, and then we go and visit, you know, the graveside, and you know, when we're all together, and or each one when they are back in Dothan, because we all live in different places. And with Mark's dad, when you know, when you mentioned just now, I'm going to go back a little bit, but when he was diagnosed in 2010 with his bladder cancer, which at that time they called it transitional cell cancer, and it had affected his kidney, ureter, and then made its way to the bladder at, you know, progressively, and then it was, you know, everywhere. But he had made a choice that he really did not want to, you know, go through, like you said, the being sick. He wanted to try to, you know, just see if by taking the kidney and ureter and some other, you know, things, but that was. And I remember one day I had been to the gym and I was driving back home, and we had lived out, both Mark's parents and us. We were across the road from each other, and and I saw him sitting on his front porch. And so I went down the driveway and pulled up, and it was a beautiful day outside. And as I'm going to refer to them, Nana and Papa. So Papa was on the porch, and he was outside with their cat watching, Max play around. And I we just struck up a conversation, and I just said, are you still okay with the decision, that you made about not doing treatments? And he said, I really have a peace about it. He said, because, I want to be able to come out and sit on the porch and look up and see it beautiful and not be nauseated and miss out on just the beauty of things. And that was so him. And he had some, what I will call remission, but yet we really know that it wasn't, because transitional cell cancer typically, when it's caught, is not a remissional type cancer. If it gets in your muscle wall of your ureter, bladder, any of that, it's in your bloodstream. And but I do memorializing. So Mark's sister, before he passed away in July, we all decided he loved the beach, and in the place that we have a unit, Mark's brother and his wife have a unit as well, 2 doors down. And we all decided we're going to go down to the beach for Memorial Weekend. It was packed house. Mark's sister and family, us and our crew, and then Fred and Dale and their kid. I mean, it was just a great, great weekend. And she took the most beautiful photograph of him and watching the sunset. And he's in his light blue shirt and his khaki pants, and he's in his Adirondack chair with his, it's just the Alfred moment. Okay. And you can see just in the sand, you can see little Eli, because he was like first grade, and 2 of his buddies, and they were playing in the sand. And it's the and I call it, just the appreciation photo, that he's just appreciating that he's got all of his kids and grandkids, and it's a beautiful moment. Mm-hmm. And so I took that photo, and Jerry Ward, who lives in Slocum, is a great artist, and we have lots of great artists that do great things, but he just has a way with doing images, painting the faces, where you get the glimpse of that person. And I had him to paint Mark a picture,
Love that.
from that. Mm-hmm. And we have it at home now, because we had a leak at the beach, and I didn't want it down there and get moldy. But the whole point of having it was that we hang it over a piece of furniture at the beach where he loved, and it was his last time down there. Yeah.
That's really cool.
What about
the reason
you?
why I bring this up is just because it's such a coping way to cope with stuff, and everybody has a different way of expressing how they want to grieve or memorialize or remember someone's name. So that's the reason why I'm curious, because I could tell about the UK story in a sec, but if you got
mine's still yet? Just so new. No, we haven't done anything.
And it could be, thinking of ways to remember. I think
well,
sometimes
you said you put together a slideshow,
helpful.
right?
And
yes, I did do a reel of all of our, from the day basically the week she was diagnosed on to her last picture.
That counts. I promise you.
Yeah.
That counts. I've had it, because I'm the techie, the photographer. Anybody that passes away in the family,
yes.
I get that. It's an honor to do it. It's not like a task.
Yeah.
But it's tasking, because going through all the photos,
well,
all the videos is definitely.
We did not have.
Kind of stuff.
We chose not to do the video thing for the funeral, but because I had all those pictures, I just outside, I had them all in silver frames, like the actual pictures that I had.
Yeah.
I mean, literally it was 2 a.m. the night before the funeral, and I was on my phone sending pictures to Walgreens, so at 7 in the morning I could go pick them up, and slap them in a frame. So I have all those, but anyway, to look at later.
That's really cool. Slideshows are, I've done quite a few, and then it's crazy. You sit there and go through a timeline of someone's life, and then some of the things you might not know about someone, or when you're putting something like that together, or just brings back all the
Yes,
memories.
it's
So yeah, it's an honor to be able to do that kind of stuff for sure. But my story, like, I'm gonna go on my sister-in-law's side of stuff as far as memorialize it, because my brother Carl, the two of us went to the UK on a memorial trip. It was all dedicated to her. She loved the UK. She loved doing stuff like that. She loved the show Doc Martin. And so we went to Port Isaac was probably like the biggest way that we memorialized her. Went to some different areas that she liked, spread her ashes in those areas. She's a big reader, so we went to Oxford and went to the library there. Put a little, like, I'm not going to disclose the location because we put some ashes. It was like a little pendant that he ordered that had her ashes in it, so he put it in a spot that the two of us know about. And so it's just like there's these little things like that
That's cool.
was pretty cool. One of the ideas that I did for him was it was one of those, like, you just random time, ideas come along. It's kind of like those shower moments when you're driving, just those kind of quiet moments when you think about something. But like, because of that slideshow, like, I remember all the pictures of her and stuff that I was putting together. And I was like, it'd be really cool. Like, I got this Polaroid printer. So I printed out a stack of Polaroids and had them, I wrote him a letter to read on the way over to the UK, so he had a little bit of time to put some thought to it. But I was like, write a characteristic about her, something that you liked about her, something that you loved. And, we had a hashtag going on and just put it somewhere, like the different places that we went to, whether someone sees it or not or whatever.
That's a
But you get to
great
leave part of her there, somewhere that she wanted to go. So it's like we did that. So, like,
That's awesome.
I was pretty proud about that idea. And it worked out pretty cool. It's something like I'll cherish for a long time. I'm working on putting together a photo album from all the stuff. I took my photos and stuff that I normally do and some of the different things that he was doing. So it's just, those are all kinds of ways. Like, find your own creative way to do things. Like, there's no wrong thing to do. There's no small or too big of a thing that you can do. If it's something that's on your heart, do it, because it's a way for you to grieve.
I didn't do this, but it was done for my dad. He was a residential developer, and he developed this golf course community in Birmingham called Greystone. It's where I had my wedding reception and grew up going there, and so many great memories. And when he passed away, at the main gate, they did a flagpole with a plaque. Aww. And he didn't ever meet my children, which is the worst part of all of this for me now. But I took them out to Greystone one day when we were visiting, and I took them out to the flagpole and let them read the plaque, and that was, special. Mm-hmm. And I also try to talk about him a lot, just like little situations, so they feel like they know him, a little bit. But that's the worst part of all of it.
Yeah, I wish my dad could be around for the grandkids, because like, he would just be so much in love with them. Olivia was only 1 year old at the time. Yeah. And so, like, she would just light up his demeanor all the time. Like, no matter, he was just all about Olivia kind of stuff. And, like, the last day on his deathbed kind of stuff, we're all saying our goodbyes and stuff. And he could barely do anything. He wouldn't smile. He would no facial expressions, eyes closed most of the time. But that was the one thing that he would, force to smile about. So, like, that's something I'll always remember too.
We were thankful for the timing of Mom's passing. It was my kid. I have a daughter at Auburn, and my son was he's a senior here, and he was out of school. And we'd made it through Christmas, and everyone was making their New Year's plans, and I was spending the night with them on her last night, and so downhill very quick from like 5 p.m. on, just whew. And we'd called hospice in, and I'm an only child, so I was there. And so the actual morning that she passed away was about 11 or so. So my husband, Jason, and both of my kids, we were all there. So
that's special. Mm-hmm. It's like a moment you'll never forget.
Yeah.
So
that was good that we were there, and they weren't off at school. I didn't have to bring them in. Like, they were right there with me.
So yeah, we stayed in the hospital with my dad, like mom, siblings. We slept on the floor. for a week, and people were coming and going, and we were just in that little bubble. And I mean, I was with him when his soul left, and I remember that moment like it was yesterday. And that is in my like top 5, like married, had children, been to some really great places, and being there when my dad left this earth. And it's such a privilege. Like it was such an honor to be there with him in that moment. And I wish I had gotten to take care of him more than I did, but like I said, I was living somewhere else. My siblings helped, but I got to do a couple of things, which is, like I said, just you never expect that at that age. I mean, when I was in my mid-20s, but it was an honor, like such a privilege to help him and ease his pain a little bit.
One of the I'm not gonna say funny, but like interesting tone of funny. But my brother, so we're all Steelers fans, Pittsburgh Steelers fans. My dad grew up a big fan, all that kind of stuff, stories that he used to tell us. And so my brother had a Ben Roethlisberger jersey, so he put that in the casket. Like my other brother and I were like, we're gonna yank that before they close after they go. It's like we're not gonna let that go to waste. It's like,
So who has that now?
oh, it's still with my
Like, who
dad.
snuck that out of there?
Still with my dad. But that was funny. We're like, what are you doing?
You're gonna regret that.
Ashley, I wanted to ask you, with your mom, like, have you kind of dreaded going in public because when you see people and you're just like, can I not cry today? Is that how you're feeling?
I'm getting better. I
Yeah.
really am.
You are. You really are.
Yeah.
And the fact that you've made it to church,
I made it back to church.
which can trigger so many emotions.
Such a,
Yeah. The first day back to church, we were ushers, so we were already standing in the back. So it was ugly, but
yeah.
I was glad to be there. So this one said, I give her the credit. She's like, it's time to get back.
It's time to get back.
Yeah.
It's time to get back.
It's easy to sit at home and watch it on TV these days, but I knew I needed to. She loved the church. She was singing the choir.
Which is another way to
to worship, to
memorialize her in
her,
a way. It's
yeah.
like, okay, Mom, I'm here.
right.
You see me. I know
So
you do.
I knew I needed to get back.
Yes.
So
You'll love this being an Auburn fan.
Of course.
My first,
So is she.
Good. I'm glad. Of course. My dad was a huge Auburn fan. That's where he met my mom. My siblings, we all went there. My grandparents went there. And my first home game back in Jordan-Hare after he had passed away, singing the
Like
song, any of the songs, I'm just like, and it's
cried?
embarrassing. I cried because I wasn't on medication.
The medicine was not working.
And I still cry.
Well, you do have to drive, too.
Yeah.
On the song note,
Yeah.
it's like when we were over at the UK, so Jenny's favorite band or one of her favorite bands was Coldplay, and Yellow was her favorite song. I can't tell you how many, we were ringing in the New Year in Edinburgh, Scotland, and we had this big New Year's plan, all this kind of stuff, and almost every stop that we were at, that song was playing.
Wow.
So you're talking about someone being there with you kind of thing?
Yeah.
I was just like, too much.
You were supposed to be there. She was following you everywhere.
yeah.
You were supposed-
Speaking of Auburn and all that, so Auburn was playing in their bowl game that we won't talk about on the day, on that Saturday, I
Rebuilding
believe. And I was in denial, although, hospice had been there a few days. They had brought the oxygen tank because we were headed into the New Year's Eve weekend, and they just wanted us to be prepared. So, the hospice crew was fantastic, but I said, Mom, I'm staying with you, but you know that Jason and I have talked about going up to this Auburn game, and she had been laying on the couch. That was her little place that she laid. She got out of the bed every single day but her last day. I mean, every day. And she had stopped eating. She had stopped almost everything. She was very, very weak. Lost tons of weight. But when I said we're going to go to the Auburn game, but we're going to be back as soon as we can, she sat up on the couch and said, go.
Yeah.
go pull on my Tigers. And I well, when I woke up, you know, and then as the night went on, I knew that we weren't going anywhere. But I do think that she thought I was at the house. You know, she kind of said, please go. So, but we didn't, and we were very glad we didn't. The score was horrible. I got to stay home and plan a funeral.
And what a great one it was.
But
All of her favorites.
yes, so it was good, and I knew I had done the right thing.
Yeah.
So,
How
but
did you feel about the funeral? How it went? Do you remember any of it?
I do. It was good. You know, they moved to Dothan, I think in maybe 2015. So they had not been here forever, but we just knew that it was best because my stepdad, they had been married for like almost 50 years, 47 years or so.
Wow.
You know, he had been my stepdad since I was in kindergarten, and so he's 87 and not great health, but just very confused, which is making it hard now. But so, you know, his children were here. You know, everything worked out. My aunt came, and then she's a twin brother, and it was really, I was glad it could be here.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier on me and all of us than having to go back to my hometown.
Yes.
And try to plan something
Yeah.
like
Yeah, but it was good. First Baptist Church, they did a good job.
Good. Since I went there first, before I went to the funeral home, I told Mark, I was like, yeah, it's at First Baptist Church. And he was like, okay. And we're sitting in the parking lot.
They must
and-
not have any
and
friends.
he was like, are you sure? And I was
Ashley
like,
late?
and so I pulled up whatever information I had, and I went, oh no, it's not.
Not at First Baptist.
So, yeah.
I mean, I you know, only child, never lost anybody, so, but it you know, nobody wants to do it, but it went off without a hitch, I guess you could say.
I think the theme of this was just memorializing and finding ways to cope and things like that. And I think most of all, I'm mostly proud of you, Ashley.
I know.
Oh God,
Like,
you're doing great.
seriously, like,
This is hard.
This
Yeah,
is.
just
This is
what
so
we were
hard.
talking about, how
But you
it's
look pretty.
about opening up and all that kind of stuff, and it's not easy for everybody.
I was the
and-
first one to
I know.
cry.
Right.
And Robin's been gone now 4 years. I mean, you know, like, it is
So I'm
still
very proud of
very
you.
raw.
I'm very proud of you,
Thank you.
and keep that up, and just know like other people are struggling too, and people can relate with you and everybody else that's doing this campaign. I'm very proud of you.
And
Yes.
you're gonna like feel like you've made strides, and then you're gonna see a friend,
Yeah.
and that's okay. It is not a step back or a setback to get emotional.
Right.
This is your mama, so it is all right. Grief is, it's just the weirdest thing in the world.
I mean, every time I see a rainbow, I get emotional because the day that we had just family viewing at the funeral home, and we were driving back out to our house, Alfred and Henrietta's house, since we lived across the road from each other, and there was this beautiful rainbow over their property that literally looked like it started or either went into the house or over the house. And I can't help but to think that, you know, that was just a sign of something that says, you know, I'm
Okay.
I'm okay.
I think like an aha moment that I had probably a month ago was, you know, I remember being on my knees a lot and just, you know, praying that she would be healed. When I realized God did answer my prayer, He did heal her. You know, the way He answers our prayers is not always how we want them to be. So for her to be finally cancer free, because it had spread to the metastasized to the lungs, back in the bladder, you know, it was gross, it was bad, it was ugly, you know, no
one
more
wants to live
catheter,
that
you
way.
know,
And it is.
bleeding all the time, you know, it was a lot. And I, you know, I was right there, you know, doing things that I never thought that I would be doing.
Yeah.
But you do it.
And like your mom, having had the cancer after your dad had passed away, but you know, having gone, you know, have to be better. She, like my mother, never even heard of transitional cell cancer until Alfred had it, and then he passed away in 2012, and then in 2019 she had a terrible car wreck and almost lost her from the car wreck. And some of the symptoms she was having, they thought it was trauma from the wreck, and ends up after 2 scans, she actually had the same cancer that Alfred had.
Oh wow!
And
they
it was
found
only
it
found
because of the wreck.
Because of the
early because of the wreck.
Yeah.
And, it's like, how does that even happen? Like how breast cancer, it's like, okay, you get it, it's hormone related, whatever the case is. Not to say that that's not terrible. It is terrible. Lost my best friend. But
There's some stuff that
your
it's like
parents,
if something doesn't happen, you want to know otherwise.
exactly. And because she is here today. She's had good checks. And we went today to have her hearing aids redone, and she can hear better, and
right.
she's a happy girl.
Good.
So, but you do feel like you're just, you don't know until that happens. And when she called me the day she was sitting in the parking lot at the emergency room at Flowers Hospital, and she called, and I was like,
You were there.
I'm coming.
In literally 2
I'm
minutes.
at home. I'm coming. I went and got in the car and I sat with her, and I was trying to not be like immediate Debbie Downer, because you don't know until you know. You don't know. Like Alfred, we thought once they took his kidney and his ureter, he would be fine, and 6 months, 3 months, whatever it was, he wasn't, and I had a suspicion that if
'cause
she
we
was
were
where
told-
she was,
yeah.
then it might not be a
That
good
it was
outcome,
already
but-
in the stud walls, and the doctor who was fabulous here in Dothan, he described it as the cancer in the bladder, that it's like wallpaper, that's the first layer, and then when you get down into the studs, and that's where hers was. But they removed it. She finished her radiation. She had 3 treatments of chemo left, but she was too sick. Well, and then we had some good, we got some strength back, and then it reared again. And then it never got any better. But
Yeah, I was thinking back about with the times where you don't expect how it's going to hit you, or your aha moments, how you put it, was Valentine's Day for me. It's like holidays went through it okay. It was obviously missing them and stuff, but it was because my mom, she was like,
what she would do for
yeah,
you.
because it's like I would always take my dad out. It was like one of those muscle memory kind of things. Like at this point, usually I'm taking my dad out to go get all the
Right.
candies, flowers, all the cards, all that kind of stuff. Like that's something that me and him did. And I was like, my mom's not getting anything from him this year, kind of thing. So it's like my mom. It's like how I describe it is like the holidays, like Thanksgiving, Christmas, and all that kind of stuff.
those are coming.
You're around groups of people. So it's like it's not the same, but it's like Valentine's Day is usually specifically for that significant other kind of
Right.
stuff. And I was just like, yeah, I lost it at that point.
Yeah.
That was when it hit me the most of, I guess, like when reality really set in about missing them and not having them there.
I think holidays are they're so hard.
I would have never thought Valentine's Day out of all the
Yeah,
holidays.
right.
I mean, my first Christmas without my dad, I didn't put up a single decoration. It was like I was on protest for the holidays and just not doing it. But one thing that was cool was we changed up our tradition that year, and we went to the lake with my aunts and uncles and cousins and just got out of our regular traditional stuff. And I also found surrounding myself with more people than usual was a helpful tool. It kind of made that person missing seem a little less obvious. I don't know.
Than a family of 6 when, I mean,
That's
it
right.
totally.
Yeah. And one
Because they're not in that familiar space.
right,
Right.
right. And then from that moving forward, my husband's parents invited my mom and my siblings to Thanksgiving, and then it's never changed. Now that tradition that started out with, 4 extra people has now, turned into significant others and children, and it's just become a beautiful thing that has grown out of, a tragedy. But
So your longest protest yet?
yeah, I'm not protesting anymore. I really love Christmas. I really do. I really get into it.
And that, could be helpful with you guys. I mean, finding a way to do some different things so that, not that you forget about her, but it just doesn't seem as daunting, when it
I kind
comes
of already
around.
have like the butterflies.
I think she'd like you to go to Bermuda.
Yeah, well, she's about to think I want to go a lot of places. And I'm listening. I'm ready to go. But I'll kind of tell a funny story. Since all I do is cry. This past Easter, she was slipping again, not well, but insisted. And if you'll notice in all the pictures that I've posted in my little reel that I keep referring to, she kept her smile to her deathbed, literally to her bed. But she insisted on making her macaroni and cheese that my son and daughter, and not to forget you, Jason, husband, adore, that I don't make. I mean, I just don't. I mean, forgive me, I will find the recipe and I will do it one day. But she was insisted, and it probably took her 4 hours to get it done because she would, and I sent my daughter over there to speed it up, and she would do a little bit and have to go lay down on the couch, and go back. Well, I had bought her all the ingredients to make the macaroni and cheese. But, as you get old, you like to save the things in the refrigerator and the cheese that's been opened. And we pinky swore that we would not tell her. I did in the very, very end, and I know she's hearing it now. But she did not choose the fresh, sharp cheese.
Oh, goodness.
She tried to use the cheese that had been purchased probably months ago that had been opened. And they didn't they didn't do the sliding that comes at the top. They would get those scissors out. Well, then you couldn't seal it back up. So we are all excited. She's an hour late. I hosted Easter, and they finally get there. Anna Bentley had to go get them. She's walking in like, mother, she was asleep on the couch, because 20 years old doesn't really understand all that. And we sit down at the table, and everybody is so ready to eat this macaroni and cheese. And we all, I think, threw up in our mouth. Like, it was horrible. Because it was old cheese. Like, it just, and we couldn't, there was nothing we could do.
Aged cheddar?
Aged cheddar. Yeah, it was like blue cheese mac and cheese.
Hey, I'm
So,
sorry.
and I'm like, how do I handle, I can't tell her. She's too fragile, you know what I'm saying? So,
I love it.
and I did say, I'm going to go get some more, and went to the kitchen, and it's like scraping it in the garbage. But, yes, Jason's like, do not, because I probably would have gotten upset with her, just because I want things to be kind of perfect. And, it
So do y'all have
wasn't.
a special recipe?
Well, I'm
That's how you
fearful.
do it.
I know.
You
That's how you
need to
memorialize
find
it,
that.
yeah.
I know, but
She has it written
Easter
down
is
in front of
coming
her.
up, if for those who don't realize, and somebody's got to make the mac and cheese.
You got it.
So
That's it.
I do think I need to do it, and I don't mind using brand new cheese.
Just call it fuzzy cheese.
Yeah, or,
Fuzzy cheese.
yes, I will use the new stuff.
That's funny.
That
Because I
is,
buy
you are
cheese
right.
when it's buy one get one free. Like
Uh-huh.
I may not even need cheese, but if it's buy one get one free, I buy cheese. So
Oh, really?
yeah, because cheese,
It's cheese.
it's cheese.
It's cheese.
It's just cheese. You can put it on anything.
We'll post that recipe when it comes
Yes,
out.
I will let y'all.
Yes,
Yeah.
because we only have a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I need to probably start practicing.
That's
but-
great.
I bet
Next
Jason will
segment.
appreciate that.
Yes,
And
I mean he's
Charlie,
just
they will appreciate a little
it was
practice run.
But also soggy.
and she wasn't eating like she.
So she didn't eat it?
I mean, she had this perfect plate with all the things, because I made her plate. You need to try one. How it's funny how you roll versus, it's full
you're-
circle.
you are so
So I'm
right.
fixing her plate and telling her she can't get up and go hide Easter eggs until she eats 2 vegetables. I'm kidding. I wish
Rolls
I
and
would. A
rolls.
roll would have been fine. So she didn't even eat it to know how bad it was, or didn't know. So, but I went to her as soon as I got to her house. I was like,
I know I got the right shoes.
yeah, I tossed that. Yeah, so, there
Yeah,
you go.
that will forever be
Yeah,
at your home.
The mac and cheese
The
of Easter.
mac and
You should have
cheese.
taken a
2023.
bit of it and shellacked it. And put it in a
Yeah.
Kind of like you do your kids' boots or shoes,
Sure. Put it in bronze.
Bronze it.
Bronze that mac and cheese.
That mac and cheese was gone before we got up from the table.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's a great story.